what happens when you open the floodgates, you can't control it. It's out of control. So now we went from GFE to BBFS, bareback full service, intercourse without a condom, which is you might as well put a gun to your head or in your mouth and just pull the trigger, play Russian roulette, because you never know if and when you're going to get AIDS. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Madam Suzanne. I'm your host, Freddie Shaban. Today, I want to talk to you about the escort review culture and how it affected the business of escorting and how it affected the escort clients. So let me take you back to 1999. At the time, there was only one escort review site that was well known to everyone in the business. It was called BigDoggy.net. It was operated out of Florida, and the gentleman's name that operated and owned it, his name was Charles. And this was the beginning of when I started getting into the online escorting thing and how the whole thing worked, and I was still in training, if you will. So I had no idea, no background about the escorting reviews or what they're all about and everything else like this. All I remember is Charles gets indicted because he was doing people favors to hook up the escorts with some clients, and they were doing parties and all this stuff and get-togethers and meet and greets. Well, he gets in trouble, right? So right then and there is when the erotic review came up. And a guy by the name of David, he's an Asian guy, he started the erotic review, I guess around the same time or right after Charles did with the BigDoggy.net website. And the erotic review was not even on the map yet. And the way it got on the map around 99, 2000 was when the BigDoggy.net and Charles got in trouble for that particular incident. David took advantage of that situation, and he started getting more active, and people started using more of his website, and he was promoting more to escorts. I remember getting those emails from them, to get on the site and register and everything like this, and how great the review is going to be for the business. Now, let me tell you about my experience with reviews. When I first started in this business, even before the internet, there was a lot of things that we didn't do as escorts. We did not kiss, and depending on the escort, they did or did not do certain things, like oral on them and stuff like this. And that was it. That was just a business model, and that's what everybody operated as, and that's what we did, and that was it. Now, what happened was, with the introduction of reviews, and in particular, the girlfriend experience, which that term came about around 2000, 2001, that changed the whole culture of the escort business. And I'm going to tell you why. Number one, with the girlfriend experience, it opened up the doors to clients to ask to kiss, to datey, dining at the Y, which is oral on the escort, and to all sorts of stuff. And what it also did, it started the kiss and tell culture, which is something we're not used to in this business. That did not exist before BigDoggy.net, and especially erotic review and GFE and everything else that came afterwards. So it opened up the floodgates for the client's advantage. Why? Anytime you give power to people, you got some of them that are going to abuse it. And in this case, it was no exception. The clients realized how important reviews were for the escort business and the money they made, which gave them a power to start being more demanding about things that they really wanted to do, like kissing, dating, and other stuff. So now the control shifted from the escort to the client. And I got to tell you, I was very unhappy about it, because I've always preached that we got to stay in control from the minute that you start contacting, or you being contacted by a client, from the phone conversation or the email, and then texting became prevalent and everything like this years later. to the time the escort books the client and actually does the session and the client says goodbye. So I've always been under the old school, if you want to say that, of staying in control from A to Z, from minute 1 to minute 60 or whatever the session is. So introducing the escort review sites, it tilted that power pendulum towards the client. I remember the first time I saw the term GFE advertised on one of the escorts in Las Vegas. I was operating in Las Vegas at the time. And I called the escort because I pretty much knew everybody in the business. You know, Vegas is a small, and this is a small community within a small community. And I asked her, I said, what are you doing this? You know, this is like something we don't do. And now you're making it difficult on everybody else because you're opening up the floodgates. And you know what happens when when you do that? She said, well, you know, I got to make a living. I cannot compete against these gorgeous women because she was not that pretty. She was about a 6 or 7 in the face and about a 5 in the body. She was overweight, okay, by a lot, at least 50 or 60 pounds. I said, well, I understand that, but maybe don't you think the answer would be to go to the gym and exercise and that? I said, I'll even help you. I'll take you to the gym with me. I'll show you some exercises. I'll write them down. I'll show you what you need to eat. And within 3 months, you could be making 3 times as much money as making now without having to offer the kissing and all this other stuff. But she obviously she was very lazy and she didn't want to have it. So I'm not trying to body shame anybody. I apologize with all due respect, all that. It's just that's what happened. And as the year progresses, 2000, 2001, 2002, I noticed that now what that did is they made the escorts start compete against each other. So they wanted to outdo each other, just like you do in any other business, right? One upper, especially in this business because of the type of business it is and how personal it is because, you know, escorts sell intimacy. They sell in themselves. They cannot separate themselves from the business, right? So there's an ego involved. There's pride involved. There's, you know, I'm going to beat you, you know, there's competitiveness and all this stuff. So the escorts started outdoing each other. Now, oh, I'm going to do deep French kissing. Now I'm going to do deep French kissing with tongue. And I mean, they just went one upper over each other, right? Started with a little to a little, you know, smooching. And then all of a sudden now we got tongue and we got God knows down your throat, all sorts of stuff. And that's, to me, was the beginning of the escorts losing control and the clients having all the control. Think about it as Yelp. Everybody knows Yelp. They review businesses, right? And I've had businesses where Yelp was you know, the main reason why we had a lot of, like I had this business in Huntington Beach, which was a dog grooming business. And I bought the business because partially is because they had over 50 5-star reviews, which is very important for business on Yelp. So it brought a lot of traffic into the business. Now, every once in a while, we'll have a client complain about, you know, the dog got nicked a little bit or whatever. And, you know, we had to kiss ass and do all this stuff so they don't put a bad review. Some of them would put a bad review on purpose and for you to, you know, want to react to it and I'll pay the vet bill and all this stuff. So I'm not trying to sidetrack you here, but the point of the matter is reviews became very, very important. And I used them at the beginning to build some of my escorts' reputations and their business. Now, remember, at the time I started working around 2002, I started working with over 200 escorts, right? And I had a big agency. So I didn't really rely too much on reviews, but with some escorts that I'm really trying, they were superstars, my dirty dozen, I called them. I wanted to make sure that they just kicked butt, right? Because they were top of the line. There was 10, 10, 10 all the way. Attitude, looks, body, service, everything. So I used the reviews and they were able to, they didn't have a problem with offering the things they had to offer. With the GFE, we started offering GFE, and some girls kissed, some girls didn't. I've always been under the safety rule. It's number one, which is if you don't want to kiss, don't kiss. If you don't want to like it, don't do it. If you don't like with a certain client, don't do it. You don't have to do it all the time. Just do whatever you're comfortable with. And that's always been my MO with the escorts. Don't do anything you don't enjoy or like to do in your personal life, and you don't mind doing it with this client or that client or whatever. And just because you do it with one client doesn't mean you have to do it with another. But buyer beware, because now we're under the microscope. Now people are writing reviews. So one bad review could affect your business tremendously. And I could tell you a lot of examples of that. I remember with my ex, Lisa Storm, before I started the agency, I only worked with her exclusively. We were boyfriend, girlfriend, and we lived in the same house and whatever. And I did all the other stuff behind the scenes like I always do. And I remember one client that had a problem, whatever the problem is. I'm not going to go into it because I've done it in another video, but he had a problem with Lisa. And it was a misunderstanding. And he took it to the next level and wrote a really bad review, like a ripoff. He categorized her as a ripoff, which is something you don't want in a review. Well, that killed the business. Like we lost about 30%. I'm not kidding you. Like 30% of 120 grand a month or so, 30% of it because of that. You know, we had a lot of naysayers. We had a lot of people going, I saw this bad review. What's going on? They don't remember all the other, 65 great reviews, a 10, 10, 10, 9s and 10s in performance and service and looks and everything and attitude. But you just like in Hollywood, there's a saying that says you're as good as your last movie or your last review. That's true here too. So we decided, Lisa and I, after I tried to, console that guy and mediate and have him just take it off and whatever, wasn't happening. Offered him the moon and the sun and the stars, which I didn't want to do because we lost control. Didn't happen. So I said, you know what? Screw the erotic reviewer. Lisa and I decided, screw the erotic review. We don't need him. And we did some other things to overcome that. And we actually did 10 times better than before. As time progressed, reviews became more and more important. Careers were built and destroyed by reviews. Then websites like Humaniplex came up. Of course, you had Room Service 2000, which I didn't have a problem with. They had another one called Redbook, which they shut down in San Francisco. It was basically San Francisco based and operated. There was another one, which was P411, all these other things that came up. But the erotic review kept coming up as number one. It became number one. It stayed number one. It still is number one. Websites like Humaniplex is a different story. Full disclosure, I've never used them. I've studied that whole business model. I do not like what they do. I do not like how they do it. I don't agree with it. They totally manipulate and extort and use the escorts because of the reviews and the power of their reviews. And they're very cliquish. There's a bunch of guys that are clicked up in that website. I don't know if it's still the same. This goes back to, really when I was in Orange County is when Humaniplex was really popping. So it's 2012 to 2017 when I got in trouble. So they were exploiting the whole system and I heard this from escorts that worked Humaniplex before and depended on Humaniplex for their income, which is a really bad thing to do. You never depend on one revenue stream from one place, because what's going to happen is they're going to have full control of your whole life, basically, because of the financial, connection to that. So these clients were exploiting these escorts, making them do things. Now, this is when we started having the bareback full service come up. Now, of course, what happens when you open the floodgates, you can't control it. It's out of control. So now we went from GFE to BBFS, bareback full service, intercourse without a condom, which is you might as well put a gun to your head or in your mouth and just pull the trigger, play Russian roulette, because you never know if and when you're going to get AIDS. And some of them did get AIDS. I heard it from the horse's mouth. I had an escort that wanted to work with me. It didn't work out. She went and started working Humaniplex on her own. 6 months later, she calls me up crying. She contracted AIDS from one of the clients, and she explained the whole thing to me. And you know what's the saddest part about this? Not that there's any price on your health ever. Is she was only charging like $200, $250 an hour for bareback full service. Can you imagine going to your job, whatever you do for a living, and you have a chance of contracting AIDS? Why would you want to do that? So we can't put all the blame on the people that were involved in Humaniplex. And I'm surprised they still, and I checked it before I did the video, I checked it and they're still live online and alive and well, which is amazing to me. If anybody should be shut down, it immediately should be them. Because what they're doing is very unsafe, and it's a health hazard, and it's a public health hazard, and that's when you draw the line and you should do something as a government, as a ruling body. They're still in operation. So did the review model affect the escort business? Absolutely, 1,000,000%. It's a double-edged sword, just like fire. You can cook with it, nice meal, beautiful, thanks for your help. You can warm yourself up with it. But also, the flip side of that coin is it could burn you too. And the same thing applies to the escort reviews. So you could build your career if you're willing to be that person that communicates well, that has patience, that is understanding, that has a lot of transferable skills, communication skills, all these other business skills, and how to read people and how to deal with people and all this stuff. And be willing to do what it takes to accommodate and give excellent in customer service, and be able to pick your clients wisely and use the right escort review site. But it could also backfire, right? Just like the Lisa example I gave you. You make one wrong error move and book the wrong client that has a lot of reviews under their belt, and they know they have a lot of power. They have 150, 200 reviews under their belt, and all the other clients on the boards and everything else, they value their opinion. Well, you better be careful before, or I would be careful before I book somebody like that. Are you up to the challenge of taking care of that type of client? And I would definitely read the reviews. The smart escorts would read the reviews and see what kind of client, what expectations are. Remember, life is about expectations. Okay? Life is all about expectations. And we don't have any control over people's expectations. We only have control of our own expectations and our own actions. So if I'm an escort and I'm willing to do what it takes to book that particular client that I've read all their reviews, and I know what kind of client they are, what their expectations are, what their services they like to be accommodated by the escort, and I'm willing to take on that client fully, 100%, then by all means, that's going to be a plus for my business, for my career. And when people know that that guy and that client was extremely happy and gave me a 10, 10, 10, raving review about the service I provided, then that's going to give you business for the next 2-3 months. Because every new reviews that comes up, your action goes up, your volume goes up, and of course, as a result, your money is going to go up. So that's pretty much how I look at the reviews, the story behind the reviews, how it all started. I hope this answers one of my viewers send me the suggestion to do this video. So I thank you very much. And if you have any other interest in any other subjects, or you want me to shoot a video and post it about whatever subject matter you have interest in or curious about, by all means, please leave me a comment or send me an email to madamsuzanne2020@gmail.com. I will leave that also in the description of this video. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Stay healthy, stay positive, and be happy, will you? I'll see you soon.